everyone, it's Kathleen Rose, and here we are, the Centennial Special Edition of the Presidential Podcast. I'm really happy to be here with you today. I haven't been in this fantastically spacious podcast booth in a while, and I'm happy to be here with Grant and Geronimo, recording my first podcast of the fall 2019 semester and of our fantastic centennial year. I hope you've had an opportunity to participate in some of our centennial activities this year. I saw many of you at our gala on September 7th. What a wonderful way to open our centennial year. And many of you came out for my coffee and conversations this year. Thank you so much for that. And as you know, this year our focus is on student voices. And we're going to have many activities as we launch into the rest of the fall semester around student voices. ASGC has one planned for in November. And then in the spring, we will be doing our student outreach events, our spring forums in the high schools, all around student voices. And so my podcast will be reflecting student voices as well. And today we will be launching that with bringing in some alumni and current students to talk about their experiences at Gavilan College. Today we're going to focus on theater arts, and we're going to bring in a couple of students who then became alumni, who then became staff, who then became actors, who are still very involved with Gavilan College, to tell you their story, their Gavilan chapter, and how Gavilan became very important to them. And then beyond that, you're going to also have the segment at the end on what's on my mind. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about mindfulness and about how I helped EOPS in their 50th year celebration learn a little bit about my meditation journey. So stick around for the Presidential Podcast Centennial Edition. Hi, welcome back to the Presidential Podcast. It's me, Kathleen, and I'm here in the podcast booth with Brian Carmack. So Brian attended Gavilan College starting in fall 2012, and he graduated in spring 2017. So he was here on campus for 5 years. He received an Associate of Arts in Theater Arts and Acting, but he came back to Gavilan. Here's the story I got from Dr. John. And we know that Dr. John is the, father of truth of all things when it comes to theater arts students. So Brian can make sure that I'm telling you the truth about all of this. But after years of work in professional theater, Brian decided to come to Gavilan as a returning student. I'm going to find out why, because I don't really know why. And I tell you that I learned about Brian because I sat in the front row when he was the MC in Cabaret. And I will tell you that I've seen Cabaret many times. I saw it in New York City. I saw it in San Francisco. I also saw it in Chicago. But I have never in my life seen a performance of the role of the MC as I did when I saw Brian Carmack take on that role at Gavilan College, and that is completely no lie. So, Brian, I'm going to want to talk to you about that.
Yes.
And so ultimately, he transferred to UC Santa Cruz with an AA, with his AA from Gavilan, and you graduated from UCSC, correct?
I did in 2019. In spring 2019, I graduated with my BA in Theater Arts.
So that was not the end of his time at Gavilan. So then he came back to Gavilan in spring of 2019, and he served as the vocal director for Gavilan's production of Guys and Dolls. Again, I sat in the front row, watched that production, and was pretty amazed with our small but mighty vocal production of Guys and Dolls. And when I came in, I got my playlist from Brian, who was working all around the house that day, and I had no idea that he was still involved in our theater arts program. And so now I understand you're getting a graduate degree?
Yes, I am in the middle of the first quarter, in fall quarter, of obtaining my master's degree.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yes, it's very challenging, and it's a great, great experience thus far. It keeps you very busy. There's lots of work to do. I'm also directing my first play at UC Santa Cruz this fall, which will premiere in a couple weeks. So everything's rocking and rolling right now for me.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So, tell me about your Gavilan chapter. What was it about? I mean, you did professional theater, I'm assuming with no degree.
Mm-hmm.
And so why did you decide that you wanted to come back to Gavilan and go on an academic pathway?
Well, my journey it sort of sprung from tragedy, actually. I suffered a personal tragedy in 2011, at which point I was living with my brother and his wife in Santa Clara and not really knowing what to do next. I was sort of at a loss and trying to find myself once again following this personal tragedy that I experienced. And my brother said, you know what, we really need you to do something. We don't want you to sit here and be depressed or feel bad or anything. So wanted to encourage me to take the next step in my career. And being that I had so many years of work in the professional theater, he said, why don't you think about going back to school? And I was, at the time, it really struck me. I was like, wow, I never had considered that idea. I had planned on going to cosmetology school at one point. Anyway, so after a short time with my brother, they suggested that I move on. I had spent some months there, and they said, why don't you look for your own place? And luckily, my sister lived in Gilroy. And I was like, well, what a wonderful opportunity for me to be close to my sister. So I moved to Gilroy and decided to go back to school. And so she showed me the campus back in summer of 2012. And she said, this is a really great school. She had gone here previously and recommended it to me. So I moved to Gilroy and signed up for classes.
And so what was that first semester experience like for you? Because, you look to be almost in my generation, so I'm not going to out your age, but, you weren't 18.
No. I forewent college at 18 because I had already started working professionally in the theater at 17. So my trajectory was a little bit different.
Yeah.
So once I did come back to Gavilan, it was really like a search. I was on a search mission. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. My connections to theater were heavily based in Europe because I spent so many years living in Vienna, Austria, and New York City. So I came here without any network. So I came to Gavilan. I had lost my theater network from the people in Europe. Of course, they're still my friends and people that I care about dearly, but they live an ocean away. And so I was like here on a mission to search and find what my next chapter was going to look like. And so I took several classes in different areas. I remember taking the TV studio class and enjoying that. It was where we learned about the news and how to produce the news and I think it was called, I can't remember what it was called. This was a while ago, 2012. Anyway, so I took classes in different areas, including journalism and TV production, and I was unsure what my path was going to be, and so I wasn't really applying myself to my fullest potential. I was taking one or two classes, thinking that was giving me enough to keep me occupied during the day, but I didn't really have a goal in mind. And it really wasn't until a couple of years after being at Gavilan and exploring the different departments and then starting to take some of my GE classes that I decided that, theater my roots were in theater. I grew up doing theater. I worked in theater professionally before. And I was like, what am I doing outside of the theater department?
Wow.
So, yeah.
And so it was an awakening for you.
Completely.
And so how did Gavilan help to really affirm that for you and help to solidify your goals so that you were able to persist, get your associate's degree, go on to UCSC, and now ultimately into grad school?
Yeah, it was a great story. I had rebirthing of the idea of my theatrical experience. I was in Vienna, Austria in the summer of 2014, and I had been absent from Vienna for 6 years. And once I reunited with my theater folks there, and I spent the summer with them and being in the environment of theater, going to see theater, musical theater, and straight theater, I was just recharged with the energy of what it means to be a theater practitioner. And so I came back to Gavilan in that fall of 2014 with a mission. I said, I'm going back into theater. It's where I belong. It's where I grew up, and it's what I love. And so I went to Dr. John, and I enrolled in the spring production of Evita at the time.
Right.
And it was a great experience. I hadn't been on stage for about 6 or 7 years. And so it was really like starting over again. But of course, I had all this experience. And Dr. John was like, who are you and where are you from? Where have you come to us from? And it was really under the mentorship and the guidance of Dr. John where I was able to realize my goal.
Okay, so for our listeners who don't know Dr. John, it's Dr. John Lawton Hale. He's full-time faculty in our theater arts department. He's been with Gavilan for a number of years. He is our theater arts department. And the story that you're hearing from Brian is a story that has been repeated over and over again from our theater arts students who've come to Gavilan, who have found this path and have launched their theater arts careers under the mentorship of Dr. John Lawton Hale, so affectionately known as Dr. John. So hopefully part of this podcast will be to recruit other students into our theater arts program. So in Evita, what was your role?
I was, a funny story, I had been off stage for 7 years, and I came to the audition, and we had to audition like you do in any production of dancing and singing. And at that time, I had developed this fear of singing, which I had done so often in musical theater, but it had been so many years, and I hadn't practiced singing, or I wasn't in vocal shape or anything. And Dr. John and Dennis came to me, and they said, we would like you to audition for one of the lead roles because of your experience, and we can see that you have the capability to perform. And I said, gracefully, I was like, thank you, but no. I will be happy to perform a part in the ensemble, and that will be how I'm willing to participate in this production. I wasn't willing at that point to step into a lead role and fulfill that obligation, or not the obligation, but the responsibilities of what that would have meant for me at that time. I was sort of stepping back into the world where I had been absent from for 7 years. So it was sort of getting my feet wet again on stage. And I appreciated that opportunity at the time. It was a perfect re-entry into the world that I had known so well.
Okay, well, then it must have shifted for you when we got to Cabaret, because you were willing to say yes to the MC. So what happened there?
Yes. Well, once I was back in the theater arts department, I was hooked. And again, Dr. John is a gem of a man and just such a wonderful leader. And he really encouraged me to stay involved in the theater arts department. I participated in the production of The 12th Night, where I played Malvolio, which was like a dream role, a dream come true. It was such a wonderful experience and really, really showcased my abilities in the best way possible. So that gave me a boost of confidence that I could be again in the front, or I could stand in a lead role and hold my ground again. So that was a great experience. And with Cabaret, I knew the minute Dr. John came to me one day when I came into class, and he said, all right, with a wink in his eye, this is the musical we're doing next. And he showed me a picture of Cabaret. And I knew at that moment what his expectations were. I knew that Dr. John is going to expect me to play that role, the MC, and I am terrified because it means me getting back on my vocal chops, getting my voice back in order, getting back into a lead role on stage, and really, really carrying a show again. And so I immediately had the summer to sort of get my myself together, I started singing again in the summer. I started doing vocal warm-ups. I was doing everything. I was drinking tea. I was eating throat lozenges. I was doing whatever possible that I could prepare to play that role. And then we came into the spring semester, and we went through the audition process, and I was still terrified. Even though I knew that Dr. John was really looking at me to play that role, I was still terrified because it had been such a long time since I had sung in front of an audience.
Well, Brian, you were. I don't even have the right descriptors. You were fantastic in that role.
Well, thank you.
And the audience we were on our feet when you took your bow over and over again. And I was so grateful that you represented Gavilan College so proudly in that role. And I just don't know that will ever be replicated on stage
Well, that
for
was
the college.
It was a wonderful, what an opportunity and what a character. I mean, that is that's like a role that I probably would not be able to play out in the real world based on my vocal range, because the role is a baritone tenor and I by nature am a baritone bass. But because we had the artistic license here at Gavilan College under the guidance of Dr. John and Sandra Marlowe, we were able to work the role to fit my voice in a way that we made some small changes here and there to melody lines and to adjust the music to fit where my strengths were. But as far as a character, that character just offers an actor such wonderful opportunities.
Oh, yeah. So it was just wonderful.
Thank you.
So one more question before we wrap up. So now you're doing your master's degree, so I, of course, have high hopes.
Yeah.
Your master's degree is in theater arts?
Yep, theater arts.
And so what are your aspirations once you're done?
My aspirations, once I'm done, I have two aspirations. And one of them is to teach in a academic capacity, theater arts. I would love to be an acting teacher. I would love to follow in the footsteps of Dr. John and direct plays and hold courses and instruct students and help to really nurture new theater talent, because that's where my strengths lie. I have a lot of experience working with actors in different capacities in musical theater as well as in straight drama. And I hope to pass along some of my talents to the younger generation and really encourage new and upcoming talent to realize their goals. And my second aspiration is I would really like to eventually return to Europe, where I had spent so many years building a foundation, and direct and work professionally in the field once again.
Okay. So, we tend to have a pretty good track record here at Gavilan College at attracting alumni to come back and be a part of our part-time faculty ranks. You might be interested in that after you receive your master's?
Well, I mean, I can't say anything specific. However, that discussion has been one that has been floating in the air for some time now, and it is definitely on my watch list.
Fantastic. So it sounds like your experience here at Gavilan was a positive one, and one that you would be willing to tell other aspiring theater arts students about as they consider their undergraduate experience.
Yes, coming to Gavilan College was a fundamental part of my success today. I mean, I came here, as I said, in 2012, searching for my next endeavor, and I found myself right back at home in the theater arts department, and it's led me to pursue my master's degree. And I'm in a great place in my career personally, and it's a great place to be in my life at this point, and I'm really thankful that I had Dr. John to guide me through the time here at Gavilan. And we maintain a very good relationship to this day, thanks to our experience together here at Gavilan.
Well, I suspect I'll see you hanging around our theater periodically, maybe during our spring productions.
For sure.
And Brian, I really appreciate you taking the time this morning to come and share your experience with our listeners here at the Presidential Podcast. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, hi, welcome back. And now I have the really super distinct honor to speak with yet another alumni of the Gavilan College Theater Arts program, Izzy Kistian. So Izzy has been here since fall 2009. And I distinctly remember when Izzy began in our theater arts program. He graduated in spring 2013 with an Associate of Arts in Theater Arts Technical Production. And here are my notes on Izzy. Izzy's a veteran. He did 2 active tours in Desert Storm, Desert Wars. Community college for Izzy didn't work out so well in Southern California. And so he came to Gavilan. When he came to Gavilan, he made a connection, and he was super active when he was a student here at Gav. He was very active in our student government, and I was a VP at the time, Vice President of Instruction, and Izzy came to me and said, we need to do some things. We need to do some things for our student veterans, and we need to make sure that we have a Veterans Resource Center. And Izzy went on to become the founder of our Student Veterans Resource Center at Gavilan College, and we will always credit him with that. He also was a senator in our student government, and ultimately became a student trustee and served with the Board of Trustees. And that's a big honor and takes a lot of time. Izzy did that with a lot of honor and pride. Before he graduated, he received the Peaster Scholarship to attend UC Santa Cruz. That is a tremendous scholarship that Izzy will tell you about, that allowed him to graduate with a degree, an undergraduate degree in technical theater. And then Izzy did not disappear. He could have. He could have gone anywhere at that point. And with his skills, talent, motivation, and ambition, he could have gone on. But he came back to Gavilan. And he's been employed by Gavilan College now for the last more than 4 years as the technical coordinator for the theater program. And so he runs our theater. He's responsible for designing lights, set, sound for all theater arts production. And I'm really super happy, very, very happy. Can you tell I'm happy? To announce that as of last month, he's now full-time with the college. And he also helps with Gavilan music and special events as well. So Izzy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
I'm happy that you're here. He's also a proud papa, and I'm very happy about that. So I've literally watched Izzy grow, and watched his family grow. And so Izzy, tell us a little bit about why Gavilan. So you started out in Southern California. You came up here. What is it about Gavilan that fit for you when you first came here? What made the difference?
So I got out in the military. I was military in the early 2000s, and when I got out of the Marine Corps, I was dealing with some challenges, internally, and I had, a couple issues that I had going on. I just was not quite ready to start school. I thought I was. I enrolled in a couple of the community colleges down in San Diego, and I ended up dropping out a couple times. It just wasn't for me. There were big campuses, so I just didn't feel that connection. So in 2009, I moved up here. My father, he has a house over here in between Gilroy and Hollister. And so I was lucky enough to be able to, build a little studio there, and was able to move in and take advantage of my veteran benefits and enroll in Gavilan and try to get focused. I remember first stepping on the campus, and it was just beautiful campus. Everybody was friendly, and my classes were, they're nice, and I had luckily some small classes, and the teachers that were teaching the class were actually very welcoming. So it was just a different experience from, San Diego, big campus, and I was able to get focused. It was, not a big lecture hall that, I was in, and the teacher actually knew my name and made eye contact. And that was just something that grabbed me. One of the issues that I had here on this campus at first was, I show up to campus and I'm like, where's the Veterans Center at? And, at that time there wasn't really much. Sandra Talavera was working over at the financial aid, and she was in charge of getting the veterans, paperwork together and getting it certified. And so that was all there was at that time for Gavilan. And I was like, oh, wow. This is a beautiful campus. Veterans need to know about this campus. This is, people can get focused here. And so with the help of many people, we were able to start somewhat of a veteran movement here and get going. And there was a lot of people in the right place at the right time to be able to make this come together. Dean Fran Lopez was very, very, she's a small lady, but very powerful, as everyone knows her. And so her personality was one of the main drives as well that kept us going.
Well, and she knew how to go to the state resources as well. And she was able to get state funding, and she was able to get all of the resources, including the Mobile Vet Center. That was a main resource that happened because of Fran Lopez's influence.
Yeah, and we still, and up to this day, just the other day, I seen the vet mobile center on campus, and I was excited, and it just brings a smile to my face, and I'm glad, and the population of veterans, I'm sure, has doubled, tripled now.
It has, yes.
So that's exciting, and this is where we're at. We have a center. I was lucky enough to see that we were blessed with a small little office to begin with behind the theater, and now we have veteran student workers and their own space to call themselves the resource center. And
so why did you select the major that you did while you were at Gavilan, technical theater?
Well, it's funny that I ended up in technical theater. When I was in the military, my MOS was doing communications. So I did like satellite communications, radio communications, and wiring and stuff of that nature. So that's where I kind of got introduced to, the technical aspect. And so after that, I worked in different jobs out of the military. I was wiring houses, worked for the cable company, satellite company. And then eventually, when I moved out here, I was, working in Cupertino with another big tech company out there. And so I had always kind of been in the tech field. And so I remember walking into Dr. John's class, and this was my first theater class. It was oral interpretation. And so I remember sitting there and just looking at the stage, and that's where the class was happening, and seeing lights, and I'm like, wow. And I remember seeing a gentleman working in the background, climbing ladders, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty awesome. And I introduced myself to him, and so I kind of asked him, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm fixing these lights. We got a play going on. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I asked him, so what part are you acting in? And he's like, acting. He's like, no, I'm not acting. I'm the technical director, technical coordinator here. I'm like, really? I'm like, well, what is that? He's like, well, I'm in charge of rigging, light system and getting set designs. And I'm like, wow, I never even knew that was a thing. And so I was like, hey, that's pretty darn awesome. And being a part of, the theater class, just the personalities in theater are amazing. You will encounter many, many wonderful characters, being part of the theater program. And so they're just very welcoming. And I felt at home right away. And I was like, personally, I get really nervous speaking in front of people. So I was like, I don't want to be an actor, but, I love being a part of this world. And so I decided to become a theater technician.
Huh. So you started working for us part-time, and you have loved our old theater. So our theater is 55 or so years old. It's one of the oldest buildings on campus. And you single-handedly have become responsible for the care and feeding and loving of our theater and keeping it going, keeping the lights, keeping the sound, keeping the structure, keeping the set. So you also build pretty much all the sets now for our productions, correct?
Yes.
And so how has that gone for you?
Well, it's a fun process. I specialize. My degree was specializing in lighting design.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily when I got here to Gavilan, I was I was honored and blessed with the duties of also doing set design, sound design, and luckily I had experience. A little bit of experience in doing all that, but I was able to further my my expertise here on campus, and the process has been amazing. I get to work hand in hand with stage production here, and so it's just been blessed. When I first started, Bill was the instructor, and so he was a veteran himself, so we had that connection instantly. But the process is fun. I get to design a set model, and we go off of our set model, and I lots of meeting with our directors, and we try to just incorporate the vision and get it together.
Yeah. So have you felt like Gavilan launched you on a path that was kind of unanticipated? You got a chance to go to UCSC and then you came back, and does it feel like it was it met kind of your dreams come true or anticipated, or does it feel like there's still something more that you need to go out and do, or are you feeling pretty satisfied right now?
Well, like I said, I can't use the word blessed enough times. This campus is absolutely amazing, and it just feels like home here. I've been so honored to be here. So funny that my family, they're from Southern California, and so
Right.
the first thing I did when I got hired was move my younger brother. He was getting ready to,
Right.
he just graduated high school, so I moved him. He's still currently living with us now. He's going to Fresno State, but he's a transfer here from Gavilan, and so he also he graduated from high school, and he also was having similar challenges like me, was not being able to kind of grasp that big college type of situation, and so same thing with him, came here to Gavilan and graduated with honors from here, and moved on to Fresno State. And so now I'm lucky enough my mother, now that she has a grandson, she decided that she wanted to move out to Gilroy as well and be close to the family. And so my little sister is now currently in the nursing program here as well. So
Fantastic. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's like I said, I can't be more thankful.
You're here.
Yeah.
You're here. There's roots for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I'm really thrilled that you're here full time. And so looking ahead, as you know, with Measure X, one of the projects is a new performing arts center here at Gavilan. And I'm going to be tapping you on your shoulder to be a part of the planning group for that. I hope you're going to say yes.
Most definitely. I'm excited, and I believe it was just last week we met with the architect that's coming in and grabbing ideas.
Good.
And so I'm excited to be able to help out in any way that I can.
Are you going to be okay to say goodbye to the old theater if we do decide to demo it in the future?
That's going to be a hard one. That's definitely going to be a hard one. That theater has been, really kind to us, and it's a beautiful old theater, and has amazing acoustics. And
yes,
so
it does.
We're gonna miss it for sure.
Well, I want to say thank you to you, because you have been just steadfast and true. Not only did I get to know you as a student, and one who is an advocate for all veterans on campus, and one who provided a pathway for student services on campus and veteran services. But now as an employee, you've brought so many improvements to our theater, and it's the community really appreciates it. A few weeks ago, I was there for the South Valley Symphony performance when the Gavilan debut with David Baruzzi was performed, the Gavilan Spirit piece, and it was just a beautiful moment. And you've done some lighting improvements in the theater to include some stars that we can now see inside the theater. And you did the stars during that performance, and it was just a magical moment to experience a premiere piece of music that was written just for our centennial, performed by David, backed up with the symphony orchestra, the lighting by you in our theater, and it was just a wonderful moment. I wanted to thank you for that.
No problem. It's, it was my honor to be a part of that performance, and usually I'm in the backgrounds trying to make
Yes,
it
you
happen,
are.
and that couldn't have been any better.
Well, yeah. Thank you so much for what you do, Izzy, and thanks so much for coming on my podcast today and for being a part of the Gavilan family.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, I'm back again. So I have a surprise third guest today on the Presidential Podcast. And again, the theme is student voices. And so I have Becca Riemel. Riemel.
Yes.
Oh, close. I was close, Becca. Becca is a current student in our theater arts program, and she just got permission from Dr. John to come out of class and come over and talk to me. And so I'm really happy that Becca's here. She's currently enrolled in the theater arts program, majoring here at Gavilan, hoping to transfer to UCSC in 2020. And in May 2019, she played Miss Adelaide in Guys and Dolls at Gavilan. And again, I was in the front row of that production. I saw her on stage. She was fantastic.
Thank you.
She actually, you're quite the dancer.
Thanks.
I noticed that you were quite the dancer. And she's a talented student dancer and choreographer. I didn't know you were a choreographer.
Yeah.
And you helped to stage many of the numbers in Guys and Dolls. And let's see if I have any other notes about you. No, that's it. So the other thing I know about Becca is that at our Centennial Gala, she was one of the greeters. So we had some theater arts students there at the Centennial, which was great. And Becca was there dressed to the nines at the top of the red carpet, so that as guests came down the stairway, they were greeted by Becca and could get pictures taken with Becca. I have a picture taken with Becca. She looked beautiful that night.
Thank you.
So, Becca, thank you so much for stopping in at the podcast. So we're doing student voices, and we're asking folks, why Gavilan? Tell us about your Gavilan chapter. And for the theater arts department, what I'm learning this morning is so much about theater arts is about the relationships that you're building that are keeping you here, solid, resilient, persistent in your resolve to move forward in your program. So what can you tell me about that?
Well, starting Gav, straight out of high school, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I had an interest in teaching, but I just didn't really know what grade or what I really was passionate about. And I've always loved theater, but in high school I had kind of given it a break. And coming to Gav, my first semester I took an acting class, and that kind of sparked me back into theater and getting back into it. And meeting Dr. John, he was a huge inspiration to me, and he kind of helped me realize that my passion is theater teaching. That's what, if I was a teacher, that's what I would want to teach. And I've kind of started to learn more about every aspect of theater, not just acting, but all the behind the scenes stuff. And it kind of, going to Gav kind of helped me find my own path, because I was really lost straight out of high school.
So where did you go to high school?
I went to Notre Dame in Salinas.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. And so do you still live in Salinas? Do you commute up here every day?
I live in Gilroy, so I would
Okay.
commute there for
All
high
right.
school. Yeah.
Okay. And so now are you in your first year or second year at Gavilan?
I am in my third, actually.
All right.
Yes.
And so you're hoping to transfer in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that you've taken a few semesters here, are you still thinking that you want to teach or you want to perform or do tech? Or have your goals shifted at all?
I think overall I would want to get my master's and come back to a college, maybe like a community college like Gav or university, and teach there, because I kind of like how Dr. John, he has like his whole department. So he'll direct shows, he'll teach classes, not only theater, but like communications classes, and he helps out with the set stuff, and he just does it all, and that's what I want to do.
Wow, we have so heard that theme today. So in talking with Brian Carmack, with talking with Izzy Keystion, they both have had that same experience with our theater arts department. And yes, a lot of it has to do with Dr. John and his devotion to his craft. But both Brian and Izzy have talked about how coming to Gavilan, the welcoming feel of Gavilan, the devotion of the program and the faculty, but just the idea of coming back and being able to give back.
Yes.
This is a place where students feel that once they have finished their formal education, they can come back and give back. And we see that a lot here at Gavilan. That's not always the case at other community colleges.
Yeah.
I really like that you have that as a goal as well, Becca.
Thanks.
So what do you like most about teaching? What do you think you would like most about that?
I think just making a connection with the students and really getting to know them and helping them, because I know as a student, I've never really had a lot of teachers who paid attention or cared to try to get to know me. And at Gav, I've seen a huge difference in the teachers and their actual passion for teaching and helping their students.
That's fantastic. Now, are you going to be in any productions this year so I can get my tickets in advance?
This semester, I'm not. It's the children's theater production. But next semester, I'm hoping to be in the play. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but I will be in it.
Okay, fantastic. The spring production. I will look forward to that as well. Anything else you'd like to let our listeners know about the Theater Arts Department, about Gavilan in general, or anything that they should consider as they're looking for higher education or community college education?
I would say if you're just starting community college, why not take an acting class or any theater class, because it kind of gets you out of your comfort zone and kind of gets you more comfortable with the students at Gav. And who knows, maybe someone will be in your other classes and you'll make friends, and it's really easy to make friends in theater classes.
I would agree with that. You know, now that I think about it, I never took a theater class when I was in my undergraduate program, and I think I missed out because I've heard that same comment from many students who've taken theater. And so I think you have a distinct advantage because of that. Thanks so much for stopping by and talking with me on the podcast today.
Me.
I look forward to seeing you in the spring production.
Thank you.
Take care, Becca.
Thanks, you too.
Okay, everyone, I'm back for my wrap-up. Gosh, I hope you enjoyed that. I really enjoyed speaking to the Theater Arts alumni and Becca, our current student in the Theater Arts program. Again, a big shout-out to Dr. John Lutton-Hale. It's obvious you're doing a fantastic job with your program. We're so glad to have you here on our staff. You've been a tenured faculty member for many years, and you do so much for our community in your productions that you do. I know you're in the fall productions right now. We have so many school districts who participate in that, and also getting ready for the spring rollout of your production, and I can't wait to hear more about that as well. So thank you for everything that you do. In this podcast segment, On My Mind, I want to talk a little bit about mindfulness. And the folks we talked to on the podcast today gave me a great lead-in to what I want to talk about today on relationships because they illustrated it so well. They talked about the power of positive relationships here at Gavilan College, and that's something that I hope all of you experience every day here. I experience it every day here. Recently, EOPS celebrated their 50th anniversary, and during their celebration, they held some workshops on campus, and they invited me to do a workshop on mindfulness. And I really appreciated that they asked me to participate on a workshop on mindfulness because I had an opportunity to talk about my meditation story. So some of you know this story already, but I've been an active meditator for many years, probably 40 years. And my meditation story started back in the 70s when I was an undergraduate student, and I was meditating with many other colleagues of mine, and especially my English faculty member that I was very close to that went to Attica Correctional Facility with me every Friday night, where we taught yoga and meditation. So I've been meditating in one way, shape, or form ever since the 70s. And so I shared my story with the students, and then we did a guided meditation together, and we learned about some breathing exercises together. And so mindfulness, I am convinced, helps me as the CEO at Gavilan College. And I meditate every morning. I get up about 4:30 and meditate for 15 or 20 minutes before I come to work. And when I don't, I feel it. When I skip a few days of meditation because I'm traveling or doing something else, I feel it. And I feel like meditation has impacted my ability to provide good decision making and have clear relationships and build relationships and keep healthy and do many things. And so, if you'd like to hear more about meditation, stop by. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. And so there's an app that I use called Headspace to meditate most frequently, but there's also a website called mindful.org that I go to frequently. And on that website, I was looking at it this morning, and there was some information that I'd like to share with you about some things that there are some mindful practices at work that are, I think, kind of interesting. Some things that you could do every morning for a better work day. And one of the things they talked about was, questions you could ask in the beginning of your workday that might help your workday have a positive frame. So one thing, for example, would be, why does the work I do matter to me? And how does the work I do impact the lives of others? Good questions to ask. Who are the people, both at work and in my personal life, who support me in my professional success? And then lastly, what would I like to focus on today? So sometimes those are questions that I have in my meditation in the morning because I want to make sure that when I arrive at work for my 12 to 14-hour day or beyond, that I can do so in my most productive way. Another thing that I'm doing is I'm reading a book called Humble Leadership. And Humble Leadership talks about the shift of organizational leadership from a transactional way where we just basically provide direction to people to really looking at leadership built on relationships of openness and trust. And I think if I'm a smart leader, I will listen to the things that we're hearing from our student voices and our alumni voices, like today, where we hear from students like Brian and Izzy and Becca, and they talk about the power of relationships that are built on campus that span over decades, and the importance of those relationships to guide our pathways throughout our life. So those are things that are on my mind, and that was helpful for me to talk about that during the EOPS workshop. So other things that are on my mind are certainly Measure X and things that are happening with Measure X. We have planning groups. Many of you are involved in those planning groups, so thank you for your time and talents with that. Guided Pathways and the work of Guided Pathways. looking at how our new deans are doing in their distributed leadership model. We are assessing that with a group that meets in my office every couple of weeks, and that's been really a powerful conversation. And then wrapping up the fall semester strong, getting ready for the holiday season. I'll be talking more about that in my First Friday column as we prepare for some pretty significant work in the area of safety and security preparedness that we want to share with the campus community. But for now, I'll wrap up this podcast. I hope to do one more before the end of the fall semester, and then some more in the spring during this very special centennial year. But for now, take care, and I will be back with you again soon. Bye-bye.